Welcome back. In this lecture we move from the big picture into the practical mechanics of getting a welding procedure test started. We are going to cover two things. First, what must go into your preliminary welding procedure specification, and second, how to design and weld the test pieces that will be used to qualify your procedure. This might sound straightforward, but there are several important rules about test piece geometry, dimensions, and welding requirements that have a direct impact on what your qualification will cover in production. Getting these right at the start saves you from costly retests later. Clause 4 of ISO 15614-1 is short but important. It simply states that the pWPS shall be prepared in accordance with ISO 15609-1 for arc welding processes or ISO 15609-2 for gas welding. Those standards define exactly what information the pWPS must contain. In practice, your pWPS will document the welding process, the parent material specification and thickness, the joint design and preparation, the filler material designation, preheat and interpass temperatures, shielding and backing gases, welding positions, electrical parameters, travel speed, heat input, and any post-weld heat treatment. Everything that could influence the mechanical properties of the joint must be captured. The reason this document is so important is that when you weld the test piece, you must follow the pWPS exactly. The test piece represents the pWPS, and the WPQR will record the actual values used. Any significant deviation between what the pWPS says and what actually happened during testing must be explained. Clause 6 defines the standard test pieces. There are 4 types, and each represents a specific joint configuration that you might encounter in production. The type of test piece you choose determines what joint types your WPQR will qualify. This is the most common test piece. 2 flat plates are prepared with the joint geometry specified in your pWPS, the groove angle, root face, and root gap, and welded together. The minimum dimensions are 150 mm in the transverse direction and 350 mm in the welding direction. Material thickness T is the same for both plates throughout the required welding length. This test piece qualifies the widest range of production joints. A full penetration butt weld in plate qualifies full and partial penetration butt welds and fillet welds in any type of joint. When your production work involves pipes, tubes, or hollow sections, other than square or rectangular hollow sections, you may use this test piece. The minimum weld length is 150 mm. The outside pipe diameter D and wall thickness T are stated. Note that qualification of a pipe butt weld covers pipe butt welds in all positions within the qualification ranges, and it also covers butt welds in plate in many cases. The T-joint test piece applies to both fully penetrated butt welds and fillet welds at a T-junction. Minimum dimensions are again 150 mm and 350 mm. The 2 component thicknesses are labeled T1 and T2, and they do not need to be equal. This test piece is particularly relevant when your production work involves T-butt welds or fillet welds as the predominant form of connection. The branch connection test piece is specifically required for level 2 when qualifying branch connections, where a smaller pipe joins a larger main pipe at an angle. The branch angle alpha must be the minimum angle used in production. The test piece applies to fully penetrated joints, whether set on, set in, or set through, and to fillet welds. For level 1, no specific branch connection test piece is required. A standard butt joint test qualifies branch connections at level 1. The standard specifies that the length or number of test pieces shall be sufficient to allow all required tests to be carried out. You may prepare additional pieces or longer pieces than the minimum to allow for extra testing or retesting specimens. For all test pieces except branch connections and T-joints, the material thickness and diameter shall be the same for both plates or pipes throughout the required welding length. You cannot weld a test piece where one side is thicker than the other. That is covered under dissimilar thickness rules, which we will address when we get to ranges of qualification. The thickness and pipe diameter of your test pieces must be selected in accordance with the qualification ranges given in Clause 8. So your test piece dimensions are not arbitrary. They determine what you will be qualified to weld in production. Choose them carefully. Clause 6.3 lays down the rules for how test pieces must be welded. The preparation and welding must be carried out strictly in accordance with the pWPS. Welding positions and limitations for the angle of slope and rotation of the test piece shall comply with ISO 6947. If tack welds are used in production and they are to be fused into the final joint, they must also be included in the test piece. You cannot tack weld your test piece in a different way from how you would in production if those tacks become part of the finished weld. Most importantly, the welding and the testing of the test piece shall be verified by the examiner or examining body. This is not something you can do on your own and sign off on yourself. A qualified, independent examiner, or a recognized examining body such as a certification authority, must witness and verify the process. A point worth making explicitly, because it catches people out: your choice of test piece geometry and dimensions has a direct effect on what you are qualified to weld in production. Weld a 10 mm plate and your qualification covers a range of thicknesses above and below 10 mm, but not unlimited. Weld a 50 mm plate and you get a wider range upward. Similarly, weld a small diameter pipe and you limit the range of pipe diameters you can use in production. Weld on a large diameter pipe and the range is much broader. We will work through the exact numbers in Lecture 7 when we cover ranges of qualification. For now, the key message is: plan your test piece to cover your production requirements, not just to be the cheapest test piece to prepare. Recap, Lecture 2 Key Points 9. The pWPS must be prepared per ISO 15609-1, ARC, or ISO 15609-2, gas welding, and followed exactly during the procedure test. 10. 4 standard test piece types: butt joint in plate, Fig. 1, butt joint in pipe, Fig. 2, T-joint, Fig. 3, branch connection, Fig. 4. 11. Minimum plate dimensions: 150 mm transverse times 350 mm longitudinal. 12. Branch connection test piece, Fig. 4, is specific to Level 2. Level 1 requires no specific branch test piece. 13. Test piece thickness and diameter must align with the intended production ranges. 14. Tack welds that are fused into the final joint must be included in the test piece. 15. All welding and testing must be witnessed and verified by an independent examiner or examining body. Let's have quiz from Lecture 2. Please comment your answers below, and I will reply everyone. Question 1. What is the minimum longitudinal dimension, welding direction, for a butt joint in plate test piece? Question 2. At Level 1, which test piece is required to qualify branch connections? Question 3. Who must witness and verify the welding and testing of the test piece?